Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. The Brewers have finally brought an end to the losing streak. Praise the Lord, it is done. The 6-game streak has come to an end, and the Brewers are back in the win column. Fire up, glory days. It is exactly what we needed. Lots to talk about with that game and with what's coming ahead here for the Milwaukee Brewers. So it was a 2-1 win. It was a really great pitchers duel between Chad Patrick and Dylan Cease of the Toronto Blue Jays. Cease was absolutely incredible, shutting down the Brewers offense through 6 innings. They made him throw a lot of pitches. They made him throw 106 pitches through those 6 innings, but still, really great job by the Brewers pitching staff to be able to hold the Blue Jays. It was just one first inning run. Chad Patrick gave up a walk, then you give up a single, and you go first to third, a sac fly, and that put the Blue Jays up 1-0. And that was a real struggle there. It's like, okay, one run, this seems like it's going to be a lot for this offense going up against Dylan Cease. Not able to get much going. And then they finally get Cease out of there, and they get to the bullpen. Tyler Rogers comes in, and then in the 8th inning, a lot of soft contact. The Brewers were Brewersing again. You had an infield single for David Hamilton, just a soft dribbler, back to the pitcher, back to Rogers, who can't field it cleanly. It bounces off of his leg, ends up going for an infield single. Then Sal Frelick beats another one right into the ground, goes literally 0 feet, and for whatever reason, when the ball came down, for whatever reason, the Blue Jays catcher did not just kind of pick it up on the way down, waited for it to bounce again, and the ball didn't really come up off the ground, just kind of stayed in the ground. And then he tried to pick it up and just couldn't field it cleanly. Went down as an error, as an E2. But next thing you know, you got 2 runners on, nobody out, just to start the inning. William Contreras, bang, single to the right side. That was the only ball to the outfield the entire inning. And then you got Bryce Terang, a chopper over the mound that ends up going for an RBI ground out. They got the Brewers the lead. And that was exactly that. That was all that they needed. They got the 2-1 lead, and they were able to lock it down. But the only reason that they were able to get there in the first place was Chad Patrick. And Chad Patrick had probably the best start of the season for the Brewers. Went 6 2/3 innings, had a chance to complete 7, but ultimately he did allow a walk in that inning. And then, after getting the second out, then it was a lefty coming up for the Blue Jays, Andres Jimenez, and Pat Murphy opted to go to his lefty, DL Hall, then to finish that inning, although Hall gave up a base hit to Jimenez, and a very deep fly ball to left field, but ultimately caught at the wall, caught on the warning track there by Brandon Lockridge, who also made a fantastic play earlier in the game up on the side. It was like Steve Bartman-esque, but there was no Steve Bartman. And this one was actually in the field of play. It was not in the stands. So Moises Alou, there's no reason to get as upset because that ball's actually in the stands. But anyways, I digress. Great play by Brandon Lockridge and a great start from Chad Patrick, the first Brewers starter to make it into the 7th inning this season. They needed some length from him, the way the bullpen has been worked a lot. We've talked about it quite a bit on this show. The bullpen has really struggled. They need a bit of a break, and Chad Patrick was able to help deliver that here in this game. Exactly what they needed from him. He was able to buckle in. Pat Murphy told us after the game that he told Patrick after that first inning, he's like, hey, no more free passes, no more walks, can't be putting these guys on. Our bullpen can't handle that right now. We need you to go deep into this game. And he did. He didn't allow a walk again until that 7th inning, which ultimately led to him not quite completing 7, just a 6 2/3, and Hall having to finish it out. But truly a phenomenal start there for Chad Patrick to keep the Brewers in the game, even though you give up that first inning run, to still buckle in and be able to just hold them at that 1 run and give yourself a chance. Give your offense a chance to finally break through, to not need a ton. They didn't get a ton, but they didn't need a ton, and they were able to end up getting the win here. And you could lock it down with Abner Uribe. Now, we just kind of talked about this last time with Trevor McGill, the closer spot, how he had another implosion, and how the Brewers likely need to make a change at the closer spot. Pat Murphy talked about it a little bit the day before, like after that game, saying like, hey, look, I'm certainly going to consider moving McGill out of that ninth inning spot. And when he talked to us on Wednesday, he said it's going to be more of a closer by committee. It's not going to be just one person in that role. It's going to vary. It's going to depend on what the game situation calls for, what part of the order the other team is in, things like that. And ultimately, Pat Murphy chose Abner Uribe to close it out in the ninth inning of this game here on Wednesday. And Abner Uribe, 1, 2, 3, sit him down in the ninth inning. A stress-free, clean ninth inning, exactly what the doctor ordered for this team. And he was the right guy to go for it. And Pat Murphy telling us post-game, as well, that, he believed Uribe was the guy. He believed he was going to get it done. He trusted him to get it done and didn't want to go to McGill in that spot, just kind of what he's coming off of. His confidence level right now, pretty down in the dumps. So wanted to go with Uribe. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Uribe a lot more in this spot, in this opportunity. He seems like the most likely guy to get those ninth inning chances, and perhaps he can earn them on a more regular basis here. But Pat Murphy's not going to commit to him specifically being the only guy for that spot. We could see a mix there. We could see some Grant Anderson, could see some Aaron Ashby. We saw Aaron Ashby again in the eighth inning because it's a day that ends in Y. 10 games in 17 or 10 appearances in 17 games so far this season for Aaron Ashby. 10 times. It's absurd, almost, but he got the job done in the eighth inning there. So that's great to see for this team. Again, they've needed this, and the change in the bullpen really, you feel for Trevor McGill, and Murphy has talked about this too. It's like, look, these guys aren't machines; they're humans, and you really feel for McGill going through it. I think there will be an opportunity for him to earn back opportunities in that ninth inning, but for the time being, you got to be looking at Uribe, and the fact that he was able to go out there and have that 1, 2, 3 ninth inning against the Toronto Blue Jays. It was stress-free. It was drama-free. There was no, oh no, here we go again kind of thing. The momentum had completely shifted the Brewers' direction. And part of that, I think, could have been, the 2 runs that they had in the bottom of the eighth inning that turned it into that save situation. That didn't give anyone else any time to change the momentum or, put another run on the board or something to make it more difficult for the closer. But being able to get those 2 runs across and do it in such a Brewers way, I think it set it up perfectly for Uribe, and Uribe gets the job done. So you're happy to see it, and there could be, I think, plenty more opportunities for Uribe in that ninth inning going forward. Okay. Also here, just want to talk about some kind of other odds and ends, some news and notes, things that we got from Pat Murphy, things that we're hearing around the ballpark, around the clubhouse, and what's going on with the team here. So first off, I want to talk about Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison, his last time out, obviously there was that first play with Gary Sanchez where Sanchez just fired a strike right off his kneecap, and had a contusion on his knee after that play. But also the way he landed after he got drilled in the kneecap by his first baseman was, he landed pretty hard on his wrist. So that's been causing him, a little bit of issues, a little bit of pain over the past couple of days as he's trying to recover and keep moving forward. So we asked Murphy about Harrison and should he remain on schedule here, because if we're remaining on schedule, Harrison will be starting the first game in Miami for this upcoming road trip, right? Not going to be starting today here, but that's going to be Brandon Sproat. But Harrison has been directly after Sproat in the rotation to start the season here. So he would have had game one, but Pat Murphy is telling us that, officially he still is, but in all likelihood, Harrison is going to get moved back. They're going to give him a little bit more time to recover from that wrist issue. As for how far back, we don't know. It could just be moved back to Saturday. It could be moved back a bit further than that. I don't know. But that's what it seems to be trending towards, that Harrison will not be starting game one there against Miami. This is not expected to be an IL stint for Harrison. It's not quite that serious. They just want to give him that little bit extra time to recover on that left wrist, because it is pretty important when it comes to pitching to have your wrist not be in pain in terms of just being able to pitch. So he's going to get a little bit of extra time there. As for who will pitch game one there against Miami, also unclear at the moment. That could be, that could mean Brandon Woodruff gets moved up, but that's just kind of how the line would work. But also Brandon Woodruff, with how carefully they've managed him, I'm not so certain that he's a guy that they would really move up, But at the same time, we did have the off day on Monday, so that would allow kind of the regular rest still for Brandon Woodruff, that you could maybe be like, okay, we can just have him be in that spot and not necessarily need a spot starter to get called up from AAA Nashville. Although that also remains a possibility. They still haven't worked through how that all is going to work, because, even officially still, Harrison is on the schedule for Friday, but Murphy made it pretty clear. It's like, that's probably not going to end up happening there. Also, another note that Pat Murphy gave us, Brandon Lockridge has apparently been dealing with a bad hip, dealing with a bit of a hip issue that he's been nursing. Hasn't been as fast, running as well as he normally does. Lockridge is a very, very fast base runner, very fast out there, but hasn't quite been as fast, hasn't been at top speed, dealing with a little bit of a hip issue. Nothing major, it appears, because he was in the starting lineup on Wednesday night. He made an incredible catch out on the left field wall. So it's not something that I'm majorly concerned about, but it, once again, will be something to monitor as injuries have continued to pile up here for this team. And it's clearly gotten to the point enough where Murphy has told us, basically unprompted, that, he's dealing with something like that. So something to keep an eye on there with Brandon Lockridge dealing with a hip issue. And, again, I don't think it's going to require an IL stint, but should this, for whatever reason, progress, that's another outfielder that you could potentially be down. You already got Luis Matos up there with the group. You already got now Greg Jones joining this outfield mix along with Blake Perkins. You got three guys there who did not make the initial opening day roster, and we are, 2.5 weeks in to the regular season. You got three new outfielders already out there. So that's not ideally where you want to be, but it's something to monitor as Lockridge continues to play here and play quite a bit. With Christian Yelichat, with Chourio out. Chourio was doing some base running activities. We saw that prior to the game on Wednesday. Chourio should be swinging the bat by the end of the week. And then after that, after a couple of days, he should be able to face some live pitching when they get back from their road trip. So it's hopefully progressing soon there for Jackson Chourio and Andrew Vaughn as well. Both of them should start swinging the bat here by the end of the week. So excited for that progress, because they really need both of those guys to come back and come back strong. So we'll be keeping you updated on all of the latest here with the Brewers at Brewers Daily. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Get notified every single time a new episode drops. Follow me on Twitter at dgasper24, and also follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get them. If you're over there, it's another spot, another different area that you can get Brewers Daily every single day throughout the week. Appreciate all of you watching and enjoying, and we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.